Well, welcome everybody. So as per the provost introduction, I'm Melanie Page. I'm an Associate Vice President of Research in the Research Office. And my portfolio is the Social Sciences, Arts, and Humanities. And my colleague, Sheena Murphy, is also in the Research Office as an Associate Vice President for Research. You can see we like fancy titles, so we have different titles. But Sheena's portfolio is the Natural and Physical Sciences and Engineering. So we sort of take the campus and kind of split it up, although we work with each other on a lot of different things. So if at any point, it doesn't matter what field you're in, you can reach out to either one of us and we'll get you to the correct place. So don't feel like, oh, I'm not in psychology, I can't talk to Sheena, right? Or I'm in engineering, I can't talk to Melanie. So we'll definitely help you get to the right places. So what we wanted to do today, Sheena's gonna kind of take us through a presentation, but before we did that, we wanted to see what's on your mind in terms of research and kinds of questions that you have. So throughout the room, semi-randomly scattered, are basically blank name tags. And what we would like you to do at your table, so you're gonna make up a table of 2 to 4 people. So you're gonna have to find somebody who's got one of the little white cards. We'd like you to introduce yourselves to each other, say a little bit about what your research area is or your department, and then for the table to come up with one question that you would like us to be able to answer during this session about the research process or research success at WVU. So you can rearrange your chairs however you want. You can face each other. If you don't have a card and you want to be you're obviously don't have a card, you need to find a card. People who have the cards are now leaders of the groups. So hope this may be your first leadership assignment as a new faculty member. And given the fact that this is an entire room of PhDs, I'm going to leave it to you guys to figure out how this is going to work without real tables. So we're going to take maybe about 7 minutes to do this. So find a new friend, set of colleagues, and each table is going to come up with one question. So, of course, that was the best 7 minutes of your day, I know. And this is fabulous discussion, and we certainly hope you have met some new colleagues and even met some people outside of your departments so that I do think I want to echo what the provost said in terms of WVU is a place where people genuinely care for each other and your success, and that's really what this session is about. But hopefully you've now met another person who, if you're struggling with something or you have a question, you can reach out to them as well as to us. So we hope that you will continue this great level of conversation. I'm going to come around and collect your questions. Hopefully people remembered that I'm going to have to read the questions as they were writing them down. And Sheena's going to go ahead and get us started sort of on the formal part of our program. And we will circle back around to make sure that if the questions are not specifically addressed in the presentation, that we'll address them at the end.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sheena Murphy, and as Melanie has already pointed out, I'm her counterpart in that I handle the physical sciences, natural sciences, and engineering. And so we represent the research office. And so while we are the research office, we actually ourselves don't do research. We rely on you guys to do the research. And so in that way, we're your advocates on campus for research. So not only can we help facilitate the submission and proposal development processes and things of that nature, but any other things that are touch research. So if you're having problems with facilities or with you have issues, recommendations for how to do better graduate student recruitment or how you hire postdocs or things of that nature, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and that we can be, as Melanie's pointed out, we can be the people who put you in contact with the right people, or we can be the people who advocate behind the scenes for your case. But that's our role. Our role is advocacy, and so we see ourselves as customer service, and you're our customers. So just let us know when you need our assistance. All right. So let's see if I can make this work. All right, so this, obviously we can't talk in an hour or whatever's left of this session about all of research at the university. So what we're going to do is just skim over and give you a couple of tips as you walk in the door on different things, and then presumably there'll be lots of questions later on, some of which we may be able to address here, but by and large you're going to have questions over the next few months, and once again, don't hesitate to reach out to us. So this is just a snapshot of the proposal submission process. And so this is the mechanics. And I will point out that these, this PowerPoint will be available to you online. Teaching and Learning Commons is going to disseminate it that way. So we have these very mechanical steps of developing the proposal. The next thing is you have to submit through this online portal called KC, and you need to register in advance to use that. If you are submitting, the Office of Sponsored Programs needs to have a 5-day advance warning on your submission, business days, so that they can get it to the agency and they can review things. After your proposal is submitted in the second step to KC, it is approved at some level at the college or unit, and in that case it'll be your Associate Dean of Research or some oversight of a center. I'll talk about that later. Then it goes to the official Office of Sponsored Programs, and it is assigned to a staff person who will review the budget and look for other technical details which may prevent it from being accepted by the agency, and then it goes off to the agency. So it looks like 5 very simple steps, and so I'll point out that this is just the submission process. Really what I wanted to concentrate on today is the proposal development process, which is a completely different kettle of fish, okay? And so here we have, and we're going to go through each one of these on a separate slide. Here's the idea of to get an idea and find a funding opportunity that might be responsive to that type of ideas, and to talk with various people about your ideas before you put it to paper. You might need to get some preliminary results, and we have mechanisms for internal funding, which I will discuss. Develop a draft, share that draft with colleagues, and then we have various services in the research office in order to get external evaluation of that draft, and then revise that draft and submit. And so that brings you back to the top part of the previous slide. And so this is where a lot of the sweat, blood, and tears get spent. So let's talk about that finding funding. There is a resource called Pivot, and there's a link there for you. That is a service that the university pays for, and you can, if you have not used Pivot before, you can start an account there, and it trolls the web on federal funding agencies and other agencies, state agencies, to find specific programs that you can search by keyword. And you can set that up in such a way that you can have something that comes into your mailbox daily or weekly, depending on whether the Pivot has found something that's matches what your keywords are. There's, as well as having agency funding, there's foundations. And so we have resources for foundation directories, and those are through the library. So I'd encourage you to go find your library. There's a library on each of the 3 campuses, downtown, Evansdale, and Health Sciences, and the librarians there are extremely helpful and can set you up on how to use the foundation directory. If you're interested in fellowships, sometimes the research office or Pivot might not have knowledge of those because they're very discipline specific, or they might be through professional agencies, and so talk with your colleagues. These are usually smaller sums of money, but they're good starter grants that you can get, and so be sure to pay attention to things, emails that are coming from your professional societies, particularly for new faculty or when you're only so many years from your PhD. There's a number of smaller funding opportunities for that. And then we have internal grants. And so let me talk a little bit. So this, that would take you now to the finding the funding opportunity. So now we're in the top part right there, okay? So let me talk a little bit about that internal funding program. This allows you to either develop an idea and get some preliminary data, or a number of other funding programs that we have that we want to make you aware of. So the first one is one that I administer. It's called P-SCORE. I don't know what the acronym stands for. Does it stand for anything?
It's basically F-score, but the P stands for like preliminary or pilot.
Okay. Now, I inherited this acronym, if there is an acronym. And so what I'll tell you about is, this might be premature for some of you, but it's for unfunded proposals. So if you have a a proposal that went out to either a foundation or an agency, and you have written reviews where it was graded, we can evaluate those. You can respond to the reviewer's comments, and you could submit it to this program. It's twice a year. You'll see it announced. And by the way, you should read your emails that come in from your Associate Deans for Research. Make sure you do that, even if you ignore the other ones. And so that program will be announced through those channels. And we will evaluate, will you use external evaluators to evaluate how close you've addressed those reviewer comments and what you propose to do with up to $25,000 so that you can resubmit that proposal and make it more competitive. The other programs do not require that initial proposal be submitted. Those are our internal grants program, and I'll hand it over to Melanie briefly so she can talk about those programs which she administers.
So, and again, remember, all these slides will be available to you guys, so I mean, obviously feel free to take pictures, but don't feel obligated to take pictures or write really fast. And the internal grants is also on the Research Office website, so that's research.wvu.edu. Under the For Researchers section, you'll see a lot of this information. So we have faculty travel grants. We have research and scholarship advancement grants. These are really good grants for getting some pilot data or finishing or starting a book project or any sort of creative work project. Community engagement is exactly what it sounds like. So if you are doing work in which you're out in the communities doing what used to be called public service grants, that kind of work, you can get funding for that. Academic conference is if you're bringing in an academic conference, so no, you're not attending one, you're bringing one here. Or you have some sort of a large project that involves needing to have people in the same physical space together to produce some sort of a work. Family travel is a unique program, I think, amongst universities. There's probably relatively few of them. This is for if you are attending a professional development opportunity, but you have significant child care or elder care responsibilities, we have an additional $800 per fiscal year fund that will help with that. If you are part of a couple, each member of the couple can apply for $800, even if you're going to the same conference, as long as they're unique expenses. And then throughout the year, we'll have various different seed funding opportunities, and this is why Sheena was saying do not ignore emails from your associate deans for research or your chairs. So oftentimes associate deans will funnel things down through your chairs, and there might be a unique funding opportunity that comes up because we either are going in a certain direction or we might get some funding in, and we want to make that as broadly available as we can. The thing to keep in mind about the internal grant programs that I just talked about, there's 2 deadlines per year. They are always the 5th Monday of the semester. So when the semester starts, start counting 5 Mondays. In the fall, the only thing that is due are travel grant applications, and everything else is due in the spring.
So another thing we'd like to call to your attention is an upcoming proposal writing workshop. We have this annually. It's provided by an external firm. I have sat through this session. Even though I consider myself an expert grant writer, there are things that I learned during this session. If you have never written a proposal before, I strongly encourage you to attend. There's a link there, but once again, as we've mentioned before, these slides will be available, I guess, Monday or thereafter, so that you can access them then. If not, what other conduit do we have for them to get to this?
So that is that, oh. Too old for this. So that is on the research website. So if you go again to research.wvu.edu, there's a link at the top for researchers, and that is under proposal development. You'll see the grant writing workshop, so you can get right over there. And then you can always just reach out directly to either one of us for any of these, and we'll send you to the correct place.
And so that one, you get a free lunch. It's a full-day affair. You will get a book. I have heard very good comments from faculty who have attended this. I will admit it, it's very formulaic. You kind of turn the crank on what this process is, but it does lend itself very well, particularly to the federal funding agencies like the National Science Foundation and the NIH, and I believe USDA. And so that's coming up, and so your registration deadline is about a month away, and the event is then the following, 2 months away in mid-October. So, so here we have, we've gone through the first step where you've got an idea, and now you've gone to your pivot to find your funding opportunity to see that your idea might align with something that an agency is interested in. You can talk with your colleagues at the university, any mentors you have from previous institutions, contemporaries you have, people that you were in school with before. It's really well worthwhile to go out and discuss your idea with other people to see how enthused they are about it as well, and that will give you a measure of how external reviewers will be interested in this. And now you've gone through and maybe you have applied for some funding so you can start getting some preliminary results if that's what's required by your funding agency, and you've attended the grant writing workshop. And so now we're going to talk about developing a draft. And so writing the precursor. A lot of people, myself included, when I started this business, you have like 15 pages that you have to write, and you just start writing the 15 pages. And that's really a mistake, I've discovered. Really what you want to do is do a 1 to 2 page summary to start out with. And here are a couple of things to consider when you're writing that 1 to 2 page summary. What is it that you want to do in a jargon-free way so that anybody can understand what it is that you're doing? What is the state of the art? How are you comparing yourself with others in regards to what you're going to lend to this that is going to be novel? You have to know what the state of the art is first. Why is it important? Why would anybody care to fund you in regards to the research that you're producing? And then how is your methodology or approach unique? How are you distinguishing yourself? Is it your idea that's unique? Is it the tools that you're using? Or maybe you're bringing in 2 different disciplines together that haven't been brought in together before to make this idea unique. Once again, that leads to the next one, why you can do it, what previous skill sets you have that would lend people to believe that you can actually accomplish it, and then what would the outcome be if you were successful. And so these are a number of things to factor into that 1 or 2 page summary, which would motivate funding this research from another agency. And then the whole idea is to get feedback on that before you invest your time and effort in the much larger proposal. And so where are you going to get that feedback? This is a place to reach out to your department chair, senior colleagues in your department. It doesn't have to be in your department. You can reach out to other departments if they have the right expertise. It doesn't have to be at WVU. It can be external to the university. So go out and get feedback on that idea before you invest a lot of time and effort in it. Once you've got that a bit more refined, it's worthwhile to reach out to the program officer. So we strongly encourage people to talk with program officers. We have heard from program officers that typically they don't like these cold calls. What they want is an email from someone saying, this is my idea. I know that you're in charge of this, this particular program. Here's my idea. How does that align with what you want to fund in the future, or can you give me some feedback on it? And that gives them something concrete to talk to you about, whether they want to respond via email or via phone or in person. And so the research office provides $100 for anybody who wants to go to DC to visit a program officer. Obviously, that might not pay all of your expenses, but it goes a pretty good way, because one of the fortunate things that we are in Morgantown is that we're only about 3.5 hours from DC. So it'll pay for your gas and maybe 1 meal while you're there. And then you can always ask to serve on a review panel. That's different for different agencies, but serving on a review panel is the biggest wake-up call, as you can see, as how the process works and what it is that the agency is interested in. So after you get all that input, now you're really ready to sit down and write your draft. You can reach out to the research office to see if we have any successful proposals that have been submitted from this university, or we can even reach out to other universities to see if they're willing to share with us proposals that were written by PIs from other areas. Okay, read the solicitation. You know, I know you're going to tell your students, read the instructions. Well, I'm telling you guys, read the instructions. It's really worthwhile going over the solicitation with a highlighter to make sure you hit all of the relevant areas in it and make sure that your draft is going to address all of those different areas. You have to pace yourself. There's lots of pieces to a proposal other than the guts where you're talking about your research. There's a lot of ancillary materials. And I find a mistake that's often made by someone who's submitting a proposal for the first time or just in the beginning is to concentrate 99% of their effort on the guts and then ignore that peripheral materials until the very end. And then they're miserable because there might be pieces there that are missing, and then you might get a return without review just because you're not satisfying some technical details. So pace yourself and make sure that that is being done. Prepare a budget in advance. And so as I mentioned, the Office of Sponsored Programs would like to have your proposal 5 business days before the submission date. Really what they're interested there in is the budget, to make sure that there's no obligations for the university and everything works out the right way. So by and large, you can change the materials that you submit to the budget, to the Office of Sponsored Programs up until during that 5-day period, but really it's the budget which needs to be firm in advance of that. As well, the research office has engaged with external grant writing agency, not grant writing agency, sorry, a grant review agency. And so if you get your proposal to us, there's a time window of about 3 weeks it will take for them to do a review of that proposal. Typically, they're not doing it in-house. They have a Rolodex of people who have reviewed at various federal agencies or for different programs. And so they're going to call on people who have done this for these agencies. And so you'll get a very good productive review, I should say. It doesn't necessarily be a good one, but you'll have a very meaningful and useful review if you do that. I've heard very good feedback from people who have used that service. It is grossly underutilized, and that's largely because people don't seem to have 3 weeks built into their schedule. So if you plan in advance, if you get the proposal, a good solid draft of it out, ready maybe 4 weeks in advance, you can give it to us, we'll get it out, and then you can work on all those ancillary materials and be doing that while the review is coming in, and then you've got that 1 week to revise before the submission date. If you can do it even in advance of that, that's wonderful. And so now as you're going down through the proposal development process, you can see that now we're down to almost the last bit, where you're down to the revise and submit. And so that's your next to last piece there, or your last piece there. Okay, and so now we're going back to what the proposal submission process is. And so all of what I had just discussed was that first box there. It's the proposal development. So there's a whole lot of time and effort that needs to go into that as you nurture this proposal and develop it. And then just to reiterate what the other steps are, just the kind of the mechanics at the university of using our online submission thing called KC, the approvals through your associate deans, the Office of Sponsored Programs, and the agency. So let's talk about who those associate deans of research are. There are as many associate deans of research as there are colleges. In fact, some of them have more than one, so there's more than one there. And so you can, those individuals are very important, so you can target your particular college and identify who the person is who's your associate dean of research. And typically, any information that we want to disseminate, we send to the Associate Deans of Research, and as Melanie mentioned, some of them have mailing lists of all the faculty in their college and will send out those notifications to everybody. Some of them choose to have another link in the chain, which is to go through a chair, and so then the chair will disseminate that sort of information. Once again, they're valuable as well for not only are there resources for proposal development within the research office, there are also satellite ones in various colleges. So some colleges are better resourced than others in regards to helping you with budget preparation and helping you with maybe the pre-submission process. So depending on who you are, you might have other people to lean on during this process. Okay? And so here is one of those mechanistic pieces that once you've got the proposal developed or you're well on your way, you want to activate one of these KC accounts. It will take 24 hours to activate, so don't wait for the day before the submission in order to get it in. Get that in fact, leave here and maybe you want to sign up for a KC account right away so that you've got that done, okay? You submit both external and internal grants through that process. And so now you've seen what the KC process is. I keep on coming back to the slide so you can see all the different steps. And so now let's talk about research administration. So now we're well down the process. So now we're actually at the official authorized authority in order to submit the proposal at the university. The name for this unit is Office of Sponsored Programs, OSP. It is run by John Childress. There's a link to the website. I believe that they might have been at the, there was a fair, they probably had a table downstairs at some point. There's a number of other, depending on the type of research you do, you might be engaged with the Office of Research Integrity and Compliance in order to take care of any kind of animal research you're doing, or Gretchen McMaster's and talking about any kind of IRB protocols that you need to go through with human subjects. They're very talented staff, and once again, they're completely into customer service, and so you can rely on them for good advice. As well, some of the work you might do might be subject to export control. We have an equally good office there, and Patty Powers is in charge of that unit. And then we have conflict of interest, which is managed by Joy Edwards. Everybody very much devoted to making sure that faculty get the right information and can do the research that they need to do. And so now I'm almost finished up here in talking about the research office itself. Vice President for Research Fred King was present at the luncheon. Maybe some of you sat with him. He's a very strong advocate of doing things for the faculty. Alan Martin is in charge of all of the units that report up through Office of Sponsored Programs. We also have Katie Storrs, another valuable member of the staff, who's the Assistant Vice President for Research Administration. And then the last two are myself, Melanie and myself. And I'd just like to point out that we are the research office, not Research Corporation. And so Research Corporation is an entity that exists at the university. It's independent, and it's a mechanism that allow you to hire postdocs and technicians on soft money. Okay? And it's just separate from state hiring. It's this independent corporation to do that. You don't have to worry about that right now. As well, I haven't discussed what happens to your grant after it's funded. That's a whole other conversation, and we can certainly talk about post-award. Hopefully, we'll be talking about post-award very soon. Okay? And so I'd like to bring to your attention two events that you might be interested in attending in the near future. One of them is the Communicating Science Workshop. Melanie has been helping to put this together. Hopefully you were hired here to do research. You have some things already that you could maybe discuss to policymakers and the public. If you want to know how to better do that and how to avoid common mistakes that faculty might make when engaging with policymakers or engaging with journalism, this is a mechanism to learn how to do that, and so that is in mid-October, and you'll get lunch there as well. And then I'd like to bring up a particular event that the research office is running in the beginning of September. This is our first speed networking event. We are trying to bring together people who do artificial intelligence, machine learning, any kind of visualization tools, and those people who are in biology and health. So if you have a hammer in AI or machine learning that you would like to apply to a nail that you have not sampled before, that's great. If you have a nail in bio and health and you're looking for someone to help you in terms of a large data set, or there's some really neat thing that you want to do, but you don't have the expertise in machine learning or in artificial intelligence, and you think that that's a good new collaboration to engage in, then this is the event for you. We ask that you use that link to tell us about yourself ahead of time so that we can make the pairings so it's a productive 2-hour period. No lunch at that, but we'll give you some cookies and coffees when that's done, okay? And so that you will see it was advertised in yesterday's e-news, and so you can look and find the link there as well. And so now, we've given you a mile-wide, inch-deep review of both the proposal development and the proposal submission process at WVU. And so now we'll have Melanie take over and see what kind of questions there were.
So I think in general, you guys had great questions and we had great answers. So we have a lot of synergy going. So what is the IRB process? Is there an online portal for submission? So Sheena just covered that in I think 2 slides ago, which is the KC system. So Koali Coleus is our system that we use for IRB, as well as for proposal submissions, both internal and external. For IRB and the external submissions, you do need to have an activated account. And again, I would second her advice, which is the minute you walk out of here, sign up for your ORC ID and your KC account so that you're not waiting till the last minute for those. It's all online, and it's relatively painless, but for IRB, don't wait till the last minute either. If you've never ever done an IRB, or you log into the system and you're looking at it thinking this is very foreign to me, please reach out to me. And we will get you actually in touch with one of the staff members who, if you can come over to our office, they will be happy to sit down with you and work through the first one with you. So it's never a good idea to waste your time attempting to understand a system that you're going to use once every 5 years. So let us help you in that regard. Okay. How do we find out about interdisciplinary research opportunities? How do we find out about existing research projects? I would encourage you to use us as a resource. We're currently kind of beta testing we have an institutional repository that's just came online last December. That's through the library, and the law school is actually beta testing an add-on, which is an experts database. So we would be able to find each other more quickly, but right now we don't use one of those databases, and so really Sheena and I are your experts database as well as your associate deans for research. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. In the RSA competition, Research and Scholarship Advancement internal grants, you can get an additional $3,000 if it's an interdisciplinary project, and you get to define what that means. There's a space in the application, so that's a little bit of extra money. And then a lot of times the seed grant funding opportunities are interdisciplinary in nature, and so that's another space to watch for.
And so, as you've just seen, we're having our first speed networking event, which is obviously interdisciplinary, taking into account the artificial intelligence and the biological dimensions of that. But we are ripe for other opportunities there, so if you see yourself in need of connecting with people, particularly because we're a geographically challenged campus, you're here right now, and Erickson's kind of in between, a no man's land, but there's we've got health sciences physically remote from Evansdale, physically remote from downtown. So sometimes it makes it a little bit more challenging at WVU to find those types of connections. So the research office can be that conduit. So if you've got an idea for different things that you'd like to bring together, tell us about it. That's how this particular event started. It was various people approached me and they wanted to make these connections. Please let us know, and we're here to host those type of events as well. How
can we cultivate a culture of research for students? So we have a relatively new, I think it's about 4 years old, Office of Undergraduate Research. So Michelle Richards-Babb is the director for undergraduate research, and they're actually hiring an associate director for undergraduate research. And so Michelle does a lot of work with individual faculty as well as with summer programs, and has a great infrastructure in place. So if you're interested in hosting summer students or potentially putting in for any kind of a larger grant to host students in the summer, she has an entire infrastructure already set up so that you don't have to do all your own lodging contracts, you don't have to do all your own professional seminars. And so if you're interested, we also have this great program in which students can get work study as well as academic credit for working in your labs. And so both of those are great programs. So you can reach out to Michelle. I Google everything, so I would Google Undergraduate Research Office at WVU, and they have a whole list of programs. And again, if Google doesn't turn it up, Sheena and I are happy to help get you connected. I'm going to have to read that one. What sorts of categorizations or designations can we leverage to best benefit our proposals? So we are an EB score state, so for any of the programs that have the programs to stimulate research in which the state doesn't get a lot of federal funding, therefore we sometimes get special considerations. For NIH, some of our units are IDEA designated, some of them are not, because and for some different programs we're IDEA and some were not. So if you're NIH funded, I would encourage you to reach out to your Associate Dean for Research, and they can tell you, are you in a unit that is going to be IDEA certified or not? What are the rules and regulations as it pertains to research that saves time and effort? I think my number one thing on this would be, do not struggle by yourself. So if you are struggling with anything, it is not a unique and new situation, and we've all been there. Sheena and I are completely removed from the P&T or promotion process, so we are never part of that. We are a safe space to come and ask us questions that will never get back to anybody. And so if you are concerned about something, you're unsure about something, you don't know how to do something, please ask us. We want you to be successful. And the only way we can do that is if you come and see us, right? So it's like students in your class who don't ever come to office hours, and it's only going to be a secret until the first test that they didn't know what they were doing, right? Don't get to the first test and not know what you're doing. Please let us know how we can help you. If anything in the process is taking too long, right? Our processes are fairly quick. Do not wait. Reach out. We will see where is it stuck, what can we do to facilitate what you're trying to do.
And another piece of advice I would say is to be careful about your service commitment. And so there is, we had this discussion a number of years ago when Melanie and I spoke to people about their career development, is that you have to be very judicious about that service commitment. You have to be careful about when you're going to say no to something, or when you're going to suggest that instead of being on a committee that you actually don't think is going to be as productive for your future research career or for your overall career, that you might suggest a different type of service commitment. But I think that you have to have a good dialogue with your chair. And there's sometimes when somebody just has to do that committee and it might be your turn, and so you have to be a good citizen as well. But I would just say don't say yes to everything without thinking about it first.
So this question I think is related to kind of a couple of things, is reaching out and working with the surrounding states. So we are part of Appalachia, and we do try to do a lot of work with the surrounding states through different organizations, different funding mechanisms. The other question was about the greatest need. The fabulous thing about being in West Virginia is that that is wide open. So as a state, I don't think it's a secret that we are unfortunately at the bottom of a lot of lists, and WVU is very committed to moving us up. And so whatever research area you're interested in, whatever service area you're interested in, there is a space for you here to make a difference. And I think President Gee talks about this. I'm sure he talked about this morning, right? That there's only 1.8 million people in the entire state of West Virginia, right? We are an ideal place to test things out for the rest of the country. And so you can really make a difference here. We strongly encourage in terms of the community engagement grants, right? That's one way to translate that and to have a little bit of funding to show this is actually a feasible idea, to take my research from the bench, whatever your bench is, out into the community and really begin to make a difference and get some pilot data around that. And again, if you are doing something that has a larger implication or you need partners at a different kind of institution, contacting one of us will be able to get you to the correct kind of partner or institution. We often maximize, so certain competitions are limited submissions. So limited submissions come through Sheena. So if you see a solicitation and it says only 2 from the university, do not get all the way to the end of the proposal writing to ask if you can have one of the slots, right? Let us know right in the beginning. Some of the big ones we have up on our website, some of the smaller ones we might not be aware of. But let us know right from the beginning, and a lot of times we'll take lead on one of those, and then other ones will work with our surrounding states and partners so that everybody actually has a chance to go for that kind of funding. As a new faculty member, what is the best place to start the research process? Research proposal, IRB, grants, etc. I think this sort of depends on where you're at in your career and what the expectations are for your department and college. I would actually encourage everybody to start with their promotion and tenure document at the department level, at the college level, and at the university level. So I would make some time within the first month to review all those documents so that you know what is expected of me to be successful here, right? The time to review your P&T document is not right before your file goes in. If sometime in the next couple of years, you can, I do not recommend this in your first year, somewhere around year 3, be on your the departmental FEC committee, faculty evaluation committee. That will give you an inside look. What does a strong file look like? Reach out to senior colleagues who have just gone up for promotion, whatever your promotion will be. what did their packet look like? In terms of where you're at in your research, I think if you have research that you need an IRB at, you have an IRB from your previous institution, you want to move that over here. And so move your IRB. Obviously, if you need to collect data, you're going to need your IRB before you can do that. Right? Begin looking for your grant funding opportunities, and then get your papers out as well, because I know this really sounds like a fun job, doesn't it? There's never a dull moment being a faculty researcher. And you really have to get good at doing all those things simultaneously. And that's sort of one of the other things that Sheena and I are happy to do is, so when we don't do research anymore, but we both did a lot of research. And so we've been there, we've gone through the promotion and tenure process. And so we're really here to be your advocates and your help along the way. And so really use us for that. Cancel. No. Cancel and dismiss. Okay. So this was about internal funding opportunities. I think we've covered that. Opportunities for collaborating between schools and colleges as much as possible. We love that. Sometimes we'll actually run seed grant competitions specifically for that. So just sort of depending. And the more successful that you guys are at getting external funding, the bigger pool we have to draw from for our seed funding opportunities. So it's sort of a cyclical process. The better that we do, the better that we can do. Identifying grants, again, I would sign up for Pivot. And if you've never used Pivot, our staff are happy to work with you. They'll come and do a whole presentation for your whole department. Maybe a couple of the friends that you've met here today, you all want to just have a Pivot training together. We will do that. So don't feel like you need to I've never seen this, and right, you go and it's hard to navigate, or you're getting a million emails, or you're getting no emails. If you sign up for it, let us know, and we will get you in contact with the people who have expertise in that and do that, and they can kind of help you set that up. The other thing is to talk with your more senior colleagues. What are the agencies that people in your field get funding from? What are the things that you should be paying attention to? So don't hesitate to use your colleagues as well. This is not an institution that hires 5 people and will have 1 tenurable slot at the end of it. So if you are in a tenure track position, we hope you are tenured. If you are a TAP or a RAP or a CAP or a SAP, and you're at an assistant professor level, we want you to go to the associate professor level. We don't want to have people not be successful. So we genuinely want you to be promoted at each level of promotion. So just let us know how we can help you do that. Let's see, this was funding. So where to get support for developing research. This is semi-college dependent. I would always start with your associate dean for research. Let them know what support you think you're going to need in terms of doing and or getting research funding, and let them tell you, okay, what do you have available in the college? Maybe you don't have that available in the college and you need to contact one of us. The more lead time you give us, the more we can help you. So if you've never put together a budget in your life and your college doesn't have that support and you ask us 24 hours before it's due, you are very unlikely to get hands-on help. We'll send you to the website. If you give us 3 weeks, 4 weeks in advance, we'll get you a budget expert from OSP who will sit with you for literally hours on end if necessary. And they don't mind doing that. So it's part of their job. It's part of why we are all here, is for you to be successful. This one's related, specifically support faculty in the grant application process. Again, different colleges have different levels of pre-award support, and if your college has less support than is ideal for you, please reach out to one of us and we will try to fill in those gaps. And that is the end of our questions that were written down. Other burning questions? I'm sorry.
Does your office also work with managing publicity for research and helping market the research?
So we do not. Each college has a college level communicator. I mean, I guess we sort of do. We do have, and we actually just, so we had a person who was in university relations and did research communications, and she left to take on a different position, and we've just replaced her with a him. So Jake Stump is the university relations level research person. If you would like to talk to somebody sort of about getting your research promoted or having that, but the starting place is usually your college level communicator. Most colleges also have either a weekly or monthly kind of electronic newsletter that lets you know what's going on. So make sure that you're on your college listserv as well. And then e-news, anybody can submit to e-news. So e-news is our daily sort of what's going on at WVU. And I encourage faculty, if you've got something great going on, you've got a funded project, or you've got an award, or, you know, you want to reach out, you're looking for, and if you're looking for collaborators, let us know, and we're happy to help you in that way. And then we really, is particularly, and the university relations, so in addition to this communicating science workshop, university relations will help you. So let's say you've got something and it's going to hit the presses, and right, everybody is going to want to talk to you, and you've never done media interviews. They will actually work with you and help train you on doing media interviews.
Certainly, I think that, you know, Melanie and I,
So wait, repeating the question for the audience, is between having an idea and finding funding, are there resources available to faculty to have a consultation or conversations around, is this a good idea? Is it something that may be fundable or not?
And so, yes, Melanie and I are both available for things like that. But I would actually say, from my point of view, is that you know, while I cover STEM, I don't know all of the STEM disciplines to the level that I would need to in order to really advise you well on this. And so, actually, I think that it might be local advice that you're looking for, or if you think that that is absent because of the particular area that you're in, you're an entity of one in that unit, then it's even more appropriate then to reach out to us so that we can find someone with the right expertise to guide you on that. So certainly we can consult on that, but I fear that I probably wouldn't have the expertise to say yay or nay on an idea.
And if you're in a health sciences unit, they actually have a program called Tweak Your Aims, and you can submit your specific aims to that, and they will actually internally review that pretty quickly, like a 2 to 3 day turnaround, and sort of tell you, hey, are you going down a road that's really not going to be fundable, or does this look like it has some teeth to it? And again, another space would be contacting us, and if we start to see, okay, a bunch of people are interested in veterans' mental health, we'll put together a whole group of people, and then you'll be able to begin to have that cohort of people that you can bounce ideas off in sort of a safe space. Other questions? Concerns? Everybody avoid campus on Friday. Honors College is going to move in, and super avoid campus on Saturday. That's move-in day. The roundabout goes this way.
I've got one thing. So we just covered some of the mechanics and ideas behind proposal development. What we didn't talk about were other additional resources, infrastructure resources that we have at the university. And so we have something that's called Shared Research Facilities, SRF, and these are university-administered central facilities, and there's a number of them, whether it's a clean room for semiconductor characterization, whether it's materials characterization, whether it's electron beam microscopy facilities, genomics facilities, things of this nature. So it's just my recommendation, is Melanie has mentioned before, is to Google these things, but there are a number of different things around campus, as well as various machine shops, whether it's wood shops, metal shops, there's glass blowing shops, and things of this nature. So some of this your colleagues are certainly aware of if it's within your department or within your college, but you need to know that there's other things in other colleges, and once again, because of our geographic complexity here on campus, you might not know what's available up on Health Sciences campus or Evansdale campus if you're a downtown person. It's another place that you can reach out to us if there's a particular instrumentation need that you have. We might be able to connect you with someone. If it's not in a shared research facility, it might be in somebody's laboratory, and maybe we can get you talking to that person to see whether you can use that tool for a bit of time, all right?
Statistical support, like if I'm having trouble with some stuff I'm running, like it goes to.
So there are two supports that I would recommend. The biostats group out of the health sciences actually runs office hours, actually 3, I guess. The statistics department runs some office hours, and Melissa Luna here from the College of Education, they have a PERC, which is basically program evaluation and statistics help, and so they are available as well. So if that's something that you need, just reach out to me and I would be happy to connect you depending on what your actual area is that you need stats in. And Sheena's been running the last couple of years out of her office workshop called Software Carpentry, which is all about sort of big data. So we'll finish on software carpentry.
Yes, and so we've been partnering with Software Carpentry, which is this volunteer organization which helps raise the level of competence in regards to computational problems. And so they'll be offering classes in Python and R. And so I've just hired someone yesterday to help out with that. And what we'd like to set up to do is that this individual will be available in the library for office hours for consultation about Python, since that's his expertise. But we think that we can also get people to maybe to volunteer and be there for our assessment as well. And so we just want to develop a larger community of people at the university who are skilled in that area, and then be able to take it out of the disciplines where it has lived to date, which is probably the more computationally intensive ones like in physics and whatnot, and see that disseminated across the university, because there's lots of advantages to looking at that from social sciences perspective as well. So we're very much interested in that. So you've got ideas about doing that, I am all ears to hear about how we can do that better across the university.
All right, so keeping us on time, I want to thank you. We genuinely want to welcome you to WVU and the Mountaineer family, and we are here for your success, so never hesitate to reach out to one of us. So thank you guys very much for your attention and your time.